Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. In case you haven't heard, whether it's from my million tweets, my multiple YouTube videos, or just, being a fan of the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to have the second overall pick in the upcoming draft, barring any trade downs or trade ups. But we're not going to worry about that right now. For the moment, the Thunder have the second overall pick. All of the tanking, the crazy Devontae Graham game winner, the crazy 73-point loss, 10-day players playing like our last 4 or 5 games, all of that was worth it because we end up with the second overall pick. It was worth it, and getting rewarded by the lottery is really cool after the way last year it went and we fell from the 4 spot to the 6 spot. We did get Josh Giddey, who has been phenomenal in his first season, and I think is going to be a great player for years to come, but still, you would like to get lucky in the lottery, and so getting lucky this year, it was a pretty good change of pace. And now it's a little bit different. Because last year, I made a video talking about who the Thunder were going to draft, and it was very up in the air. There was James Bouknight, like an Alperen Şengün was kind of rumored. Maybe Scotty Barnes could have fallen there. Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey, of course, being another option. Like, there were a lot of different names that were circulating all up and down the draft board right around that time. Franz Wagner, another example of a name. But right now, being the second overall pick, there are really 3 names that are ever going to come up in the top 3. And if any of them fall out, it would be pretty surprising. So right now, it's Jabari Smith Jr. out of Auburn, Paolo Banchero out of Duke, and Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga. Those 3 guys are the consensus top 3 picks in this draft. And if they don't go 1, 2, 3 in whatever combination of the 3 of them, it would be a pretty huge shock. So I'm really not going to talk about too many guys outside of that top 3 in this video. I think the Thunder are going to take whoever they like the best out of those top 3 that Orlando doesn't pick at 1. And part of this video is, who do the Orlando Magic take at the first overall pick? And it's up in the air. Once again, there have been a lot of mock drafts that I've read to try and get some information just going forward and also for this video. And people seem kind of split on who they're going to take. A lot of people, most of the mock drafts, I would say, have them taking Jabari Smith Jr. He's a sharpshooter, like I said, out of Auburn. He's only 18 years old at the moment of me recording this video, so he's really young as well. He would fit in pretty nicely at the 3 or the 4 alongside Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter Jr., making one of the better young, probably the best young front court in the NBA. A ton of potential there. Franz had a great rookie season, Wendell Carter, and I think Jabari Smith complements those two really, really well. He gives another shooting threat for Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony to pass to, as well as Markelle Fultz. He fills in really nicely in that team. There's not a lot of pressure on him to perform immediately, because Orlando, they're fine with being bad going forward, and they've got some decently established players. There's already kind of a pecking order established, so he can kind of just come in, fill in his role, and if he starts to break out into a star, eventually take over that mantle. But for the time being, there's not a lot of pressure on him, which is a good spot for a guy who's really young and someone who has a pretty high floor. At worst, he's probably going to be a really solid 3-and-D guy, but at best, he could turn into a legit superstar. You've also got Chet Holmgren is another guy that you see probably taken the second most out of all these mock drafts. A lot of people, he's their number 1 prospect. He's a 7-footer, 7'1", I think he might be. He's got a skinnier frame, which some people are a little bit concerned about, which is why he could go past maybe number 1. But Chet's probably going to go 1 or 2 because he's one of the best defensive prospects we've seen in a bit. He's really lengthy. He uses his body well and his length. A great shot blocker. He can stretch the floor. He's efficient, scoring at the rim, shooting over 60% at the rim. And we really haven't seen the true extent of his ability because at Gonzaga, while he was one of the top dogs, he was mainly a defender, an interior defender who took some shots here and there. He was never really the focal point of their offense, but Chet's got a game that's kind of guard-like, handling the ball. There's a lot he can do outside of just being a big that pick and pops or rolls to the basket or shoots a couple middies a game or just defends. He's a lot more than that. He is a really versatile offensive and defensive big. So a lot of people think he could go to the Magic at 1-2, maybe slotting in at the 5 or the 4 alongside Wendell Carter Jr. and Franz Wagner once again. Another fit that I think is really nice. So I think one of those 2 guys will go 1, but you also do have the possibility of Paolo Banchero going number 1. He also fits with that Magic team. The Magic really could just use players. He's probably the most polished offensive player in this draft. Some concerns about his defense, but offensively, a lot of people say he's even maybe more polished than Jason Tatum was coming out of Duke. So Paolo is a guy that 100% could go there at that number 1 spot. And if he doesn't go 1, he's going to go 2 or 3. Beyond those three guys, you've got like Jaden Ivey. Shaden Sharp is a guy that maybe could try and make some conversations at like the 4 spot. But outside of like those guys, it's going to be one of those three guys in 1, 2, 3, some type of order. So those are the guys we're going to focus on in this video. And for the sake of the video, I'm not going to predict who the Magic take. I think it will probably be Jabari or Chet. If I had to pick now, I think it's going to be Jabari. I think he fits well. And when all the mock drafts kind of have one guy seeming like maybe not a consensus #1 overall pick, but the guy that most people think that the Magic might lean, that kind of indicates to me that there's some type of rumblings. There's something that they like there with his gameplay. Now, of course, Chet also has a connection to the Magic through Jalen Suggs. If you didn't know, they played high school and AAU ball together. Jalen Suggs, of course, went to Gonzaga the year before Chet Holmgren, and then he helped recruit him to Gonzaga to play for the Bulldogs. So there is a little bit of a connection there too. They're really good friends, so maybe they go that way to try and make Suggs more comfortable, build that chemistry. But I think they're probably just going to draft who they think is the best basketball player, regardless of friendship or anything like that. So right now, I'm not going to predict who they take, but if I had to, I think it is Chet or Jabari. And we're just going to talk a little bit about who I think fits best on the Thunder beyond that first overall pick. So the question is, how do each of these prospects fit with the Thunder, the roster, the young players that we have going forward? And the good news is, they all fit pretty great, which is one of the best parts about having moved up to the second overall pick, is that in like the 4, the 5, the 6 range, there's a lot of guards like Jaden Ivey, Shaden Sharp. Given he's more of like a 2/3, there's a lot of guards, and the Thunder, of course, have Shea, Giddey, Dort, Trey Mann, amongst others, at the guard position. It's pretty loaded. And so being in this range in 1, 2, 3, thankfully, the top 3 guys are all bigs, either power forwards, centers, or like a combination of the two, can play one, can play the other. So I think all 3 of these guys fit really well on the Thunder's roster. So I'm not even really concerned about the fit. I think Jabari would be great as a floor spacer, of course, being one of the best 3-point shooters in college last year, especially considering the difficulty and the volume of threes that he put up. It was really impressive, and giving a floor spacer like him to Shane Giddey would be huge for their growth and development, I believe. You've got Paolo, who can also space the floor and gives you a really all-around polished offensive game down low in the mid-range, from 3, whatever you need him to do. And then Chet can space the floor, can score at the rim, do a little bit of everything, and also provide some defensive versatility, which is huge. Jabari also provides some pretty solid defense, and Paolo, while he's not a great defender, has shown some flashes of being able to be one. So all 3 of these guys, I think, make sense. I think they would all really help this team, the direction of the team going forward. And so I'm not really worried about fit. I think that all 3 of them are going to fit. So for me, it's just which prospect do I like best? Which prospect do I think would help this team grow, become the best team they can be? And for me, that prospect is Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren, if all 3 of them somehow were available, or if I just had my pick of the 3, or as long as the Magic don't take him, I want Chet. I think Chet is a phenomenal prospect. Like I said, some people are going to be worried about his frame, but I'm personally not. He's going to be with the best like strength coaches in probably the world. He's going to be able to bulk up, get better, get bigger. He doesn't need to be phenomenal now. He just needs to grow, and already he has great instincts defensively. His ability to block shots, go up against centers who, even if they have more size than him, he can really give them hard times, give them troubles. We saw that against Memphis with Jalen Duren. Chet had a lot of really solid blocks, contests. He has such an ability to move his feet on the perimeter as well, contest shots, get in passing lanes. He has so much length and versatility defensively that I think he is a perfect big for this modern league. Even if he doesn't end up being a 5 and is maybe a bit of a 4, he gives some really much needed size to this team. And he's also someone that, being a legit 7-footer, the Thunder really don't have that type of guy. So bringing him in, giving Shane Giddey a lob threat, which has been one of my biggest asks for this draft, is I want someone who's like 7 feet that can go up and catch lobs from them. And I think Chet could do a great job of that. He can, while he's not like the highest jumper, he's got the length to really go up above almost anybody, get the ball, and bring it down into the basket, of course. He's really good. Stretches the floor, can shoot from the mid-range, and we haven't seen the full extent of his game offensively. Like I said, he didn't have a ton of usage at Gonzaga. So I'd love to see what he could do with Shane Giddey running pick and rolls, pick and pops. I think that he is a great fit and also one of the best prospects, the best prospect in my opinion, in this class. So I want Chet Holmgren on this team. He is my guy. If I have If he's not gone at number 1, I want him at the Thunder on number 2. Now, like I said, I do think the other two fit pretty well. Paolo and Jabari are kind of 2A, 2B for me. I think I lean a little more Paolo, though. I like Paolo's game. For me, I think he's got a pretty high upside, maybe a little bit lower of a floor, but even so, I don't think it's that much. His defensive worries are a bit of a concern, but I think that he does have the tools. There were times where he was able to lock in and be pretty solid. It's just more if he's got to kind of keep that defensive consistency. And the Thunder last year were able to really get people to buy in defensively. We were a team that ended up in the top 10 in defensive efficiency for part of the season, despite being a really young roster without like a true big. And so I think we could get Paolo to buy in pretty similarly. And if his offensive growth, which, like I said, some scouts already say is like Tatum level in college at least, if he's able to grow on a similar trajectory, he could become a legit superstar. I think Paolo Banchero is someone who is absolutely incredible offensively. If he figures it out defensively, he's going to be one of the best two-way players in the league, period. No like qualifying things at all. As for Jabari, I am a little more worried because he's not a great driver. He had a lot of issues getting to the rim in college, which the Thunder kind of thrive on getting to the rim, although Shea and Giddey do that a lot already, so he doesn't really have to be that threat, but I'd love to see him get a little bit better at getting to the rim. I think that that's a bit concerning how he's just settled a lot of time for threes, and while Shea and Giddey would get him tons of open threes, and he may not even really need to go to the rim like that, it does concern me a little bit. And it also makes me think that he might not be the Thunder's number 1 choice because he doesn't have a great handle. Not saying the other two have like phenomenal handles or anything like that, but the Thunder really like guys that can run and create plays for others, dribble up the court. We've seen it with a lot of our draft picks these past few years. And Jabari doesn't really have that as much as the other two guys, which is a little bit of a concern for me. I do still think Jabari could be a really good player. I think he's got an incredibly high ceiling, and his floor at worst, he's like a really solid 3-and-D player, maybe like a Mikal Bridges, maybe a little bit less good defensively, better shooter, but at his worst, if that's what he becomes, that's still an incredible player to have on your roster. So I think that all three of these guys fit. But if I had to rank them for the Thunder, I want Chet, then Paolo, then Jabari Smith in that order. But like I said, I'm going to be cool with any of those three guys. I think all three of them have stupidly high potential and could really help this roster in a number of ways. So those are my thoughts on who the Thunder should draft. Let me know who you want the Thunder to take in the comment section below. And if you're a fan of another team, let me know who you want, whether you're like a Magic fan, a Rockets fan, a Pistons fan, Kings fan, Pacers fan, Blazers fan, whoever. Let me know who you want your team to draft in the comment section below. Who are your favorite prospects? And even if you're not a Thunder fan, who do you think the Thunder should draft in this draft at the number 2 overall pick? I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. I'll see y'all later. Real One, say it back.